The main memory of the George and Dragon was this symbolizing me moving away from having to try and be this heteronormative gay guy that was camp and bitchy and
bleached his asshole.
exactly, and allowed me to be more comfortable as myself.
Hello, I am Kay Anderson, and you are listening to Lost Spaces, the podcast that mourns the death of queer nightlife. Every episode, I talk to a different person about a venue from their past, the memories that they created there, and the people that they used to know. So as much as this show celebrates queer spaces and, in inverted commas, the scene, I think that there's always also been a bit of a recognition that it's not perfect. You know, it's exhausting sometimes trying to fit in, trying to find people that you like and who like you back. And that's a crucial element there. They need to like you back, otherwise it's just weird. And trying to feel seen. But sometimes, just sometimes, you find this space where you feel like you are meant to be. And that can feel, I was going to say orgasmic, but that's a bit creepy, isn't it? This week, we are joined by Scott Flashheart from the Probably True podcast, who longtime listeners will remember has been on the show before, way back at the beginning of 2021, when we talked about pop stars. This time, we are talking about the George and Dragon, a bar in London that closed in 2015. But before it closed, Scott says that the place helped them to feel like they'd found their community and feel free. Those are my words, not theirs. Sorry, Scott, if I've made you feel a bit sick in your mouth. We talk about the elements that exist in the right kind of gay, again, inverted commas, looking for your tribe, and knowing when it's time to leave the party, which is something I just don't think I'm ever gonna crack. Shall we get into it? So, one of the funny things about watching the UK Drag Race, this is going to make sense in a second, just go with me, is that there are lots of drag queens on the show that are like, I'm from East London. And they don't just say, I'm from London, they say, I'm from East London. Like, they make a point of it, which I always think is really strange.
Why?
It's more specific than London, but it's still not very specific. It's not like I'm from this particular borough or this particular area. It's like a whole quarter of London, but what they mean is I'm from the really cool part of London.
Yes.
I'm not from just the boring part. And so I find it a bit pretentious and strange.
I don't know if I would say it was pretentious. I think they're trying to differentiate themselves from if you say you're from London, then there are several different stereotypes in there. West London, for example, is the very rich end of town. That's where the rich wankers and all that kind of thing are, the establishment, the bourgeoisie. And then East London is kind of the opposite of that. It's a lot more working class. It's a lot more creative, fashionable, kind of angry. It's more queer, I would say, in the kind of sense of queer, meaning anti-establishment, a little bit more edgy, a little bit more interesting, rather than just gay, which is always if you had to separate the two, I'd say Soho was gay. It's where gay boys go. And that's your mainstream kind of poppy, dancey kind of thing. And then East London is kind of a bit more queer. It's a bit more interesting, a bit more creative. It's not as mainstream. It's a little bit more out there.
But okay.
That's why I live here. There's lots of boys with stupid hair, much like me with my ridiculous half-shaven head, or boys with orange eyebrows, or stupid face tattoos, or
But okay, so
whatever.
what does it mean other than just in the fashion sense, what does being queer mean over being gay?
Oh, see, this is a conversation that I have tried to have many times, and I always get stuck and confused and lost in the middle of it because I don't really
And I'm glad
know.
I'm not answering it. Yeah.
For me, and I have to preface this with that because there are so many different ways that people have of defining gay versus queer. For me, I would say, if in this context, someone who is gay is usually white and cis and middle class. They are the people who aren't trying to change the system because they've found space within the system to exist. They are accepted because they're not different enough. They can present as heterosexual. It's like the old style, I don't mind what people do behind closed doors as long as they keep it to themselves kind of thing. Like, I don't want them shoving it down my throat. I don't want it in front of the kids. It's like having your own home and having a single monogamous monogamous partner and maybe a little dog. And it's just like everything that heterosexual people have, but instead of a man and a woman, it's two men. That to me is gay, whereas queer is kind of saying the system, the rules as they are, don't fit me. I don't fit in that world, and I either don't want to or have no interest in trying to. And so I'm living in some way beyond or outside of those rules. That cis-het patriarchal framework of what is acceptable and there's the whole kind of like, oh, getting on the property ladder and finding someone and settling down and squirting out some kids. And for some people, that's fine. I don't begrudge anyone who wants all of those things and just happens to enjoy cock rather than minge. Go for it. If that's what you want, then fucking fine.
Or both.
Or both.
Wait, so, okay, hang on. So can you be gay and queer?
You can be homosexual and queer, yes.
But not gay.
Or if you define gay as someone who is happy within the framework of society as it stands, and someone who's queer who is not, then no, because they're diametrically opposite. However, I have heard other definitions of queer which are a bit more nuanced, probably, and a bit more interesting, along the lines of claiming yourself to be queer means that you have deconstructed your place within society and the sexual and gender components of that, and chosen the ones that resonate well with you and left behind the others, or moved on from the others, or just disregarded the others, which then starts to get awkward because the question then isn't can a gay person be queer, but can a straight person be queer? And that's kind of weird because under that particular definition of, you know, someone who has deconstructed what it means to live in society and done their own thing, if they've done all that and they've chosen the parts that work for them, but they happen to be cis and male and exclusively attracted to cis female people, then under those rules, yes, they can be queer. But they tend not to be because when the system works for you, you don't bother to question your place in it because there's no need to, because the drive isn't there to do that.
Okay, but if they do?
If they do, then they can call themselves queer. Yeah, fuck it, it's a word. Anyone can call themselves anything. It's like, there's no way of proving it, is there? It can't be like, oh, you're queer, cool, suck a dick. As fun as that would be. You know, there's no police, and label policing is apparently quite toxic. If people want to call themselves queer, fucking go for it. I prefer it over gay just because I'm non-binary, so I'm not a gay man. And when you say gay, people think, oh, a man that likes men. I'm not a man. And, you know, I tend to sleep with people who have penises, but it's not exclusive, and it's certainly not the thing I look for when I'm trying to have sex. Well, I go looking for it in that I expect it to be kind of beneath the belly button and above the knee, but it's not.
Above the knee? Oh, that's where I'm going wrong.
I mean, if you find someone whose penis extends below their knee, then marry them immediately.
Keep them.
Yeah. Or at least send me some photos, that's fine too.
But so, okay, but in the context of location, so we're talking about East London being queer, we're talking about Soho being gay in this, for the purposes of this conversation. I am not sure whether your definition of queer applies to all of the people that are going out in East London.
Well, no, and again, this is where, you know, it's all a bit iffy. This is why this kind of conversation sells a lot of books and has people nodding and stroking their chin all the time. Because saying what is queer is essentially the same question as asking what is art.
What is art?
Exactly. There's no easy definition. Or what is pornography? There's no easy definition for any of those things. But as with both art and pornography, we know it when we see it,
Do we?
don't we?
Like, I don't think drag story time is pornography, but some other people do.
Exactly. And that's part of the problem is there's no set definition where we can point at it and go, this is not porn because there's not a cock out. Although I agree, like drag story time is delightful and wholesome and much better than a lot of things cishet people do in the name of protecting kids from such things. But then it'll all be different when I'm in charge.
What's your manifesto?
I don't need a manifesto. This isn't going to be a vote. It's not a popularity contest. I'm going to be in
Oh,
charge.
okay.
I'm going to make things better. It's not voluntary.
When do I need to leave the country by?
I mean, we all need to leave the country immediately. Like, that's plainly obvious.
Yeah, that's a by the by. Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a couple of friends who were like, no, we must stay and make it better. And I'm like, oh, babes, that moment has passed. It is time to leave. Sometimes all you can do is walk away.
This is my problem. I never know when to leave the party.
Before you have to start using a food bank?
Well, I'm always in the kitchen at the end.
I spend a lot of time in the kitchen at parties, but that's because my social battery wears out quite quickly. And so I found one of the best things to do when I'm getting low on social juice is to gravitate to the kitchen and do some washing up, because there's always glasses and cups to clean at parties. And you're actually being helpful because then they can be used by the people who are still drinking and all of that kind of thing. Although once I did get quite into it and ran out of glasses and ended up descaling the kettle at this party at someone's house. I was in Brighton and I had no way of getting back that night. I was staying in this guy's house and the party was just going on and on and on. I was going to say it was dragging on. It was dragging on for me. Everyone else was having a great time, but I was like, it is 10:30, it's bedtime, I am exhausted, and you people aren't leaving, so I'm going to go in the kitchen and wash some pots. And then I descaled the kettle and got very close to reorganising his cupboards, but I thought that was a move too far. Not a euphemism, but I thought that was a bit too far.
Yeah, well, I'm not as helpful. I just sit in the kitchen and wait for people to come to me.
I mean, I'm not doing it because I'm helpful. I'm just doing it because I needed something to do that wasn't talking to people.
Okay, yes, but the secondary impact of that activity is that you are being helpful.
And if anyone comes in and sees me doing it, they think, oh, how helpful, which is nice.
Exactly. You get these additional kudos points. But so what happens in a nightclub when your social juices run out and you need to flee? And you can't.
I leave.
You can't do dishes.
What kind of nightclub won't let you leave? There's always a chance to leave.
But so, have you never been in a club where you felt the social pressure to stay because there were a group of friends there or whatever, but you still wanted to kind of run away, or do you just like leave and not tell anyone?
Oh no, I think the worst it got was one year I went to Manchester Pride, and we went out like 3 or 4 nights in a row, and I was staying with this friend of mine, and so I was kind of beholden on him to get back to his house when he'd had enough of the night. And that was fine for the first 2 nights. But by the last night, I was absolutely exhausted before we even left the house. I just didn't want to be there. And so not even then, but after a couple of hours, I was just kind of sat in a corner, completely overloaded, just staring at nothing, completely just numb. And I remember his friend kind of coming over and waving at me because I was just so out of it. I just didn't want to be there. And yeah, I just kind of start to shut down, and it's horrible, and it takes days to recover from when it gets that bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the next day I was like, I'm so sorry, but I'm really not feeling well. I think I'm going to stay in bed. And he was like, all right, well, I'm going to go and do blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yep, sure, that's fine. I'll be right here. If I leave the house, I'll text you so I can find you to come back because you need one key. And I just stayed in bed. I watched a couple of movies and just generally had to self-care myself back into a socially acceptable place for the final day or so of being around. And this is why I know I can't do lads holidays and things like that. Lads. Because after 2 or 3
nights... How
nights...
many lads holidays have you been invited on?
It's not the point.
Okay,
if someone were to invite me, if I were to have friends and they were to invite me on holiday, I would have to decline politely, or at least not be out every night with them. Or I could go out as long as I get some sleep and some space and time to kind of,
recharge,
gird my loins, as it were.
Yeah, that's a better term.
I don't understand that saying. I want to know where that saying comes from. It's of interest to me. Anyway, but yeah, without those things, I get snippy, I get tired, and if it gets worse, I just get numb and I start to just shut down. And it's horribly unpleasant for me and probably everyone else as well.
Well, it's super interesting, though, because I get the impression from you that you are very gregarious and outgoing.
I'm a delight. Oh, sorry. Was that? Did you want me to say more than that? You wanted me to discuss that a little bit further, rather than just agreeing
I'm
with
just
you.
processing your proclamation.
Yes, I can be, and I am, and I think I don't know if there is some trauma here somewhere, or maybe not trauma. Something changed a few years ago, like before lockdown, but I'm not sure how long before lockdown, because it was lockdown that kind of like threw it in sharp relief and made me realize that this was a trauma response. Because when everything started shutting down, they were like, oh, well, you're not allowed to go anywhere or do anything. I was like, well, that won't affect me, because I'm like that anyway. All these people complaining about it. I don't have that much going on in my life anyway. And then after a little while of thinking about it, I was like, that's not good, is it? There's something wrong there. So since then, I've been consciously trying to rebuild and be more social in ways that I find acceptable and not super draining and exhausting. But yeah, there's a lot of, it's weird. It's an interesting contradiction between I need my alone time and I also get painfully lonely if I don't socialize with people enough.
Oh, okay. So is that what happened in lockdown? Because the way that you've just talked about it made me think that the fact you were okay with lockdown is the thing that triggered.
No, I was already painfully lonely. I hadn't realized until lockdown. Yeah, and so now I'm consciously rebuilding my friendship circles and making sure they're of the right kind of people that I like actively want to spend time with and talk to more, rather
And
than just
how do you do
people who are
that?
around. Slowly, frustratingly slowly, especially as I'm 27, so I'm getting old.
Oh, God.
What was that rolling of the eyes
Well,
for?
like, why lie about your age? No one gives a shit.
I give it. No, I don't care at all. I'll be 40 in January, so I am getting on a bit.
No, you still got plenty of time.
Have I? How do you know? I could die
Well,
tomorrow. We all could.
I mean, if you're lucky.
So yes, I found myself painfully lonely and kind of realized that it was because I didn't have any interesting or stimulating friendships. I was hanging around with the wrong kind of people who were convenient or
Yeah.
just there. And then since then, like in my late 30s, I've been more intentional about the friendships I make and making sure that I actually like the people I'm spending time with, as opposed to it just being, oh, you'll do.
But how do you know?
Well, you have to spend time with people, and sometimes you kind of go, oh, well, all right, that's enough for today.
But this is the thing, right? Okay, sorry to grill you on this.
No, go for it. This is interesting. This is cheaper than therapy.
Sometimes you've invested so much time in a person that even when you realize you don't like them, you've invested time. So it's like, I just need to see this through.
To what? To death?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's your choice. Personally, I would not.
Yeah, so how do you know when, like, to cut the cord? Or whether it's just
when you stop
like,
enjoying their company, I suppose.
Yeah, but how do you know that's not you? How do you know it's not
Well,
the
who else is it
seasons
gonna be?
changing? Is it like if you've not enjoyed the last 3 or 4 times you've seen them, that's when you cut the cord? Or is it just, I didn't enjoy you the last time I saw you, bye?
I mean, I would give it more than one interaction,
One and a
just
half?
in case you're having a bad day or something. But if you're hanging out with them because it's better than nothing, that's a warning sign, not a red flag so much, but certainly am I actually enjoying this person's company, or is it just that it's this or Netflix? Yeah, if I'm actively looking forward to seeing them, or I see or do or think of something that I'm like, oh, I really want to share that with this person.
You never share anything with me.
I share things with you. I'm sharing with you right now.
But
I told you how old I am. I never tell people how old I am.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? Because at either end of the spectrum, there's people who you're just like, this person's amazing. I can't wait to see them again. I can't wait to talk to them. And then there's other people that you're just like, ugh, they suck all the joy and energy out of me. I don't want anything to do with them. But then there are people in the middle that you're like, yeah, you're all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
So how do you know?
It's not a binary thing. Like, life is analog, babes. You can see someone once every 3 months and consider that fine. Also, there's this thing where we consider relationships, like social relationships especially.
Transactional?
Yeah, and I'm not keen on that. But then maybe this is where it gets weird, because if you don't consider them from a transactional viewpoint, then I'm sure you could find joy in spending time with literally anyone. If you come away from spending time with someone or a group of people and you feel drained and not uplifted, that would be a warning sign. That would be a kind of like, all right, let's see, why am I actually spending time with these people? When I was doing that, it was because it was that or nothing. And I didn't want to be lonely and saddened on my own, which then lockdown forced upon me. And I kind of went, well, turns out that the people I had been spending time with, I didn't like enough. I was just doing it because it was that or nothing. And now I'm stuck with nothing. I should probably do something about that. But that's not to say that it's like, you are my friend, they are not my friend. You can still be social with people and just not see them all the time. Like, I don't see any of the people I like that much very often. One of my friends I've not seen since June, and that's okay.
Oh.
He'll turn up, I'm sure.
Oh, that doesn't seem like very long to me.
Well, I'm sure I have other friends that I've forgotten about right now because I have ADHD and it's quite difficult to remember things unless they're directly in front of me. Anyway, I forgot what I was telling you there.
Okay, so let's go back like maybe 3 or 4 steps.
Oh, Christ. Okay,
I think
go
this
for it.
thing, so rebuilding your friendship circles,
Yes.
there is this contradiction, as you've pointed out, that like you kind of have to be strategic about it. You have to be intentional. You have to have some kind of mental checklist of like Marie Kondoing your friend list.
These
Does
people
this
bring
thing
me
bring me
joy.
joy? If not, put it in the bin.
Mm-hmm.
And then that does kind of clash a bit with that, like, friendships should be organic, friendships should be, I don't know, not work. Well, maybe they do need to be work. Friendships are hard.
I think it's good to put the work into a friendship and to like do the work necessary to make it a close and mutually fulfilling. That's the thing. If you're the one always putting the work in and you get nothing out of it, if you feel more like their care worker or their therapist or whatever else, then that's not
The nag.
And I mean, maybe that's what you want. Maybe you need to feel needed.
That's no. Even if that is what you want, you need to go and sort that out.
Exactly. And for me, part of it was I just wanted to feel popular. It didn't matter who it was. This is back when I was in my 20s.
Oh,
I just wanted to feel part. I wanted to feel part of a group. I wanted my tribe. I wanted people around me that I could feel connected to. Only it turned out that they were not the right kind of people for me. And I would leave every encounter more drained and tired and miserable than if I'd not gone. So, yeah. I remember leaving, I think it was Shake Your Dicks at the Star of Bethnal Green back in the day. I remember leaving one night and just feeling so painfully lonely and miserable, despite the fact that I'd been out with 8 or 9 people who I, at the time, thought were my friends. And I was like, not actually getting anything out of this relationship.
So why was that in that moment? Like, were they just
were
kind of
dicks.
ignoring you that night? Oh, they were just generally dicks.
Yeah, no, they had their kind of inner circle and I wasn't part of it. And so,
Oh, that hurts.
yeah, and they had no interest in making room for me. They were happy with things as they were, which is a shame, but kids will be kids. And I can't be too harsh on them because, you know, they were doing what they'd never had the chance to do as teenagers, which was be the bitchy, messy girls. And yeah, it just didn't fit for me. I wasn't close enough to being one of those, and they didn't want to make room for anyone a bit different. And that's okay.
But so how long had you been friends with them before you made this realization?
Probably 7 or 8 years.
Oh,
A long time.
oh hell.
At least 5. Maybe 7's a stretch, maybe, but yeah, at least 5.
Oh, see, the reason that I am terribly lonely and sad and miserable is because my threshold for bullshit is ranked way, way too low. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm done with this, bye, very early, which is why I was asking the questions earlier.
That's okay. No, it's good to have a low threshold for bullshit. Like, for me, I find that helps. And people are like, oh, you're very quick to judge. And I'm like, yes, but I'm right. And that's okay. Like, you learn your red flags and you start to learn them earlier and earlier. And you can just be like, I don't know what it is, can't put my finger on it, but I don't want to spend time with this person. And that's okay. Stop giving them the benefit of the doubt. Trust your gut.
But what if the problem is you?
See, you're speaking to someone who's almost 40 and has never had a proper boyfriend. I am very aware that the problem may be me. The thing is, it doesn't matter. In any relationship, it's never one person. It's always both because that's how it works. Like, even if the other person is completely toxic and awful and like takes you for granted or steals your money or your business or
Ooh, can I find out more about this person?
no, even if those kind of things are happening, they may be the awful person, but you are also involved in this because you've got into that situation in the first place. And
This is a slightly problematic statement to make.
I mean, obviously, if yeah, I should probably rephrase that a bit, shouldn't I? All relationships have two people in them. And sometimes, yeah, maybe sometimes it is entirely out of the blue that someone turns around and betrays you or whatever. But usually, in
Yeah.
all relationships, there are warning signs, there are red flags, there are boundaries that are crossed or that are not enforced properly in the first place. And when you start to allow shit to slide, that becomes the new norm. And so there's no one person, there's always two people in a relationship. And I'm not trying to victim blame or anything there. It's like, and I'm not going for any particularly dramatic or awful situations, just generally people who don't respect you or don't respect your boundaries or aren't doing for you what you're doing for them as part of the relationship.
Or you've not learned how to be assertive, or you've not learned how to communicate.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm not sure if that's a blame thing, is it?
No, it's not. It's not I'm not trying to blame anyone. I'm saying in any relationship there are two people, at least. And I think it was Oprah that says that we teach people how to behave towards us because what we let slide becomes the norm. You have to kind of set your boundaries and you have to kind of go, that's not okay.
Yeah. And I guess my thing is like, as soon as that happens, I'm like, I'm out of here. Bye.
And that's fine. Like that's cool. But
Right. There's just so many guys who are blocked on Grindr. Time for a quick ad break. So, as you know, this show is all about spaces. And one of the things that I am particularly interested in exploring is what are the ingredients to a successful space? Is it about the host? Is it about the people who happen to be there? Is it about the ground rules? Or is it a magical combination of all of the above plus a little bit more? Well, luckily, I have been given the opportunity to find out. I have recently partnered with Spaces, the new group chat app for queer communities. On Spaces, users can set up their own space within the app, and the one that I have set up is called Lost Queer Spaces, where I will be sharing a little more insight from every episode of this show, but I will also be throwing in some vintage nightclub posters, throwback songs, and a whole heap of embarrassing photos from sweaty nights out clubbing. If you want to know more, all you need to do is find Spaces in the App Store, download it, and set up your profile. And don't worry if you're on the go at the moment, I will make sure to include more details as well as a link in the show notes for this episode. So let's get back to the show, but I hope to see you very, very soon on Spaces. So let's go like 17 or like 310 steps back.
oh, I'm sorry, listeners. Sorry.
Shall we talk about the Georgian Dragon?
Oh yeah, that's what we were going to talk about all that time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Going to the Georgian Dragon. Oh, I used to love the Georgian Dragon. I miss it.
So do you remember the first time you went?
Kinda. I mean, there were many times and they all kind of blurred together, but yeah. And I just remember it not being pretentious. It was just a very relaxed pub. And like you didn't have to dress up. It wasn't like the bars in Soho where you'd like want to do your hair and you'd want to make sure you were wearing a nice top or like something that show off your bum or whatever. People didn't care, or it felt like maybe they did, but it felt like that wasn't really the vibe. It was just where people went to hang out with people who were like them, and that's nice. I like that, not having to try, because as someone who has never really fit in those kind of circles, as we can kind of call back to my inability to be friends with those kind of people, trying to be one of those people didn't work for me either. And places like the Georgian Dragon back in the day were a lot more relaxed. They're like, yeah, you know what, come as you are. You don't need to pretend to be something you're not. You don't need to project this air of the right kind of gayness. You can just be yourself. And that was liberating. It was really nice. It made me want to go there all the time. Although awkwardly, at that point, I was living in Vauxhall, which is literally on the opposite side of the city. And it was a ball ache to get to.
Oh, boring. Who were you there with?
I imagine I was there with a couple of old friends, a couple of people that I thought were my friends. And I
Ooh.
imagine,
Is this a throwback?
yeah, kind of. And yeah, it was shabby and kind of nice. And they had a piss take of the white cube gallery. They had the white cubicle gallery that like different artists would come and put like bits of, like queer artists would put 3 or 4 different pieces of work up at a time in this one white cubicle, and that would be their gallery space, which was, I'm sure, something nice to look at while all these East London gays did a ton of methadone in the toilets or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun and it was nicely relaxed. And I remember so many beautiful young men that I would just be like, over and then never see again or whatever.
But you had a rich fantasy life with them. And so
I
what was
did.
going on in your life at this time?
This was what? Oh, this would have been around 2009, 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have been 27-ish,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So I'd been in London a few years. I was kind of getting by job-wise. And so, yeah, I was young and I'd found that the mainstream superficial pretentiousness of Soho and Vauxhall had left me cold, and I was looking for my tribe and looking for my place to belong and all that kind of thing.
And so you've maybe spoiled this by having the conversation about lockdown and the realizations that you came to. But did you find your tribe?
Not yet.
No.
There's still time. Well, at the moment, I'm as we record this, I'm speaking to you from my flat, which is 3 minutes walk from where the George and Dragon used to be. I moved here, and I moved here good. I've been here 10 years now in this part of town, and I love it.
And it's all because of the George and Dragon.
Well, it's because of the people and the vibe and the feeling, the way it felt more welcoming to me, and it felt more somewhere that I could be. It felt like I fit in a bit more here, and that's why I've stayed as long as I have, because like it feels a little bit like home.
Why?
Because it felt like a place where all the other misfits were, all the wanderers and the lost boys and the people that didn't fit in anywhere else. Like the George and Dragon and places like that, they felt like a place where we could go and be amongst other people like us.
Mm-hmm.
And for someone who is still looking for their tribe and those people, there was a great draw to it that there wasn't to other places, other scenes in London. And yeah, it felt more comfortable, more like I could find people for that kind of thing here. It's not that I have no friends. It's just that I had to cut out a big chunk of people that I had thought were friends when I realized that my criteria for what a friend was faulty. So I fixed my criteria, and then when I measured people up against it and they didn't fit anymore, I had to be like, well, off you pop.
Did you send like a formal notification of their services no longer being required, or was it more like a ghosting?
No, not at all. Do you know what the thing that kind of made me know that I'd made the right choice was?
You waited for them to contact you and they never did.
Yep. I stopped beginning conversations. I stopped trying to get something out of people, and I waited for them to notice or for them to reach out to me first. Never happened. I nearly said I'm still waiting, but I'm not, because I don't want to talk to them anymore. But that amount of time has not ended. It's still, and it's been 6-7 years. Occasionally I bump into someone and kind of go, oh, hello, how are you? And they go, oh yeah, fine, thanks, how are you? Yeah. And that'll be it. Like, I bear them no ill will, like most of them. I mean, but like most of the people, I don't begrudge them it. Like, they were doing their thing and it just wasn't the thing that I wanted, and that's fine. You know, we move on, we drift apart, things change.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? So, I know I've put you on the spot and asked you to explain big concepts to me so far, and that's kind of unfair, and I apologize, but I'm going to do it again. This whole thing about tribe, this word seems to have seeped into everyone's language. And is it really a thing, do you think?
It's an interesting question. I would say that by tribe, I think it's a lazy word and probably culturally insensitive, but I believe it to be an approximation of chosen family, those with whom we are intimate and connected in a way that we aren't, to say, acquaintances or people like that, so close friends. And it's not to say that you need to have a massive chosen family or circle of friends or tribe or whatever you want to call it, but it's a group of people to whom you feel connected and...
Sure. So is it a thing? Or is it like how when I was young, I always wanted to be in S Club 7 because they all looked like they were friends and a gang and like they had to spend time together because they were a band?
Yeah, it's the gang. It's the kind of maybe we were indoctrinated with things like Friends when we were young and impressionable. That the idea that we would have this close knit group of friends. Maybe we wouldn't sit around pretentiously in central New York coffee shops when we should be at work or doing other things. But
Don't judge.
I'm just I'm just
Like
jealous. I'm just
if they've
envious.
got the money to sit around
I'm
all
just
day.
envious. Like you saw their apartment. Oh.
Yeah,
Anyway,
fucking hell.
but the idea that you would have these people, I don't know whether it is like just something that we've picked up from the 90s kind of
Yeah,
zeitgeist.
yeah.
But the idea that there's a gang, there's a group, there's a family, a WhatsApp group or whatever that is
Oh.
you and yours.
Oh, I just felt sorry for myself, but I am part of one WhatsApp group. So I've got that going for me.
I'm not. But that's okay.
Okay, let me start one and add you.
I'll just mute it. I can't be doing with WhatsApp groups because they're just like bing every 5 seconds. So I just switch off all notifications. I'll check it when I want to.
There's something really limiting about being in a gang as well, though, right? Like, because what group of friends is going to serve all parts of your personality?
None. But then the idea of a group of friends is that they would serve several. And so I think in a lot of ways, if you have that chosen family, it helps take some of the pressure off of what you might be looking for in a romantic partner. Whereas if you don't have a close-knit group of friends,
I don't know
then
how I feel about
it's
this.
potentially possible. It's possible. I'm not saying that this is going to be the same for everyone, but it's possible that you will try and find someone who's going to tick all those boxes, which is less likely than having a few friends who deal with some of the shit, and then you have a lover or a significant other
Or
who
17.
can 17 lovers. All right,
Yeah.
cool, good. That sounds like a very complicated rota, and probably a lot of sheets to wash. Good for you. And this the thing is like there's this idea that this person's a friend, this person is not a friend. Those definitions can be very wide. You can get different things from different people, whether they're like.
Yeah, but we're talking about tribes now.
Yeah, but then the idea of a tribe isn't that everyone would be the same. It would be that they all are part of this group and they would all bring different things to this group because they must do, because everyone's
Yeah.
different.
I guess that I struggle with a structure being applied to a structureless format.
You're the one applying the structure.
Well, I'm talking about the term tribe. I
Yeah.
didn't come up with it.
It's just a group of people who all choose to spend time together and find it mutually beneficial to do so.
Yeah, but who's in and who's out? Like,
Every single person's groups will be different. There's no,
Yeah,
or maybe not.
exactly.
Like I don't know. Maybe this is why the group I was mentioning earlier that I wasn't part of, that I ideally wanted to be. They very clearly knew who was in and who was out, and I was out, and that's fine. I don't know what their criteria were. I don't know why I didn't meet it. Presumably, I was just annoying. It's possible.
well, I've actually got them here on the other line. And they were,
Hi, guys.
oh, that would be awful.
That would be interesting. I don't think they'd care enough to be on the other line, to be honest.
What, you think it wouldn't entice them to be on this show? Is that what you're saying?
Just that I don't think they'd care enough to talk about why they didn't like me enough to be my friend. That would feel very strange.
Yeah, there's nothing more alienating than that feeling of wanting to fit in, is there?
It reminds me a bit of New Kid at School kind of feeling. Like, you don't have a friendship group yet, so you're just kind of like drifting between. And sooner or later, you'll kind of fall in with the right people, hopefully. But yeah, it can be quite isolating to start with, or if you make the wrong choice early on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then this is how we grow and learn.
Oh, fuck that.
And it's never as rigid as those things on like American TV where there's the jocks and there's the goths and there's the mathletes and the pretty girls and the exchange students and shit like that. It's never like that. People are...
Yeah, the simplicity of storytelling really fucks you up for the complexity of life, right? Because I
really
think
does.
that I struggled with that throughout my 20s. Like, well, I should have this group, and this group should be like everything to me, and I shouldn't need anyone else. And then, like, okay, I've not found these people. What am I doing
Exactly.
wrong? But
what
yeah,
is
maybe
wrong
they're
with
not
me
there.
that I don't have
Yeah.
this group of people?
Mm.
Yeah. And always the people in the storytelling groups, they're not three-dimensional people with flaws and layers. They're just usually stereotypes or some kind of archetype or a thing. And
Why can't I be an archetype?
because you're a real person, babes. You're bigger on the
but it
inside.
would be so much simpler.
Wouldn't it, though?
So, you know what I'm going to say next, don't you?
No. Tell me.
Well, shall we talk about what we're here to talk about?
Oh, shit, yeah. Back to the Georgian Dragon.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, so back to the Georgian Dragon.
Are there any particular stories of adventures that you had in the Georgian Dragon?
I'm sure there must be, but I think it was more just a backdrop to a time in my life where there seemed like, from a storytelling point of view, it would be the end of the story of the little lost boy who couldn't fit in with the cishet gays. And instead...
Oh, wait, hang on. I got confused. Did you say cishet gays?
I did. Sorry, that's not a thing, is it?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, cishet gays. What's wrong with that? Yeah.
Because my follow-up question was going to be, wait, you wanted to fit in with heterosexual people? And then yeah, okay.
I did at one point. We all did. We all wanted to just be...
No.
We all wanted to be accepted for who we were.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to be accepted, but I didn't want to fit in.
Oh, I did. For a while. Then I realised that it was a lot of effort and it was not worth it.
Okay, so sorry, I cut you off. So
yeah.
It was the end of an era.
Yes, that's my overarching, like the main memory of the Georgian Dragon was this symbolizing me moving away from having to try and be this heteronormative gay guy that was camp and bitchy and
Bleached his asshole.
exactly, and allowed me to be more comfortable as myself and as who I wanted to be rather than who I was trying to be to impress other people. And that it would be the final scenes or the coming home of that story would be in the Georgian Dragon, because that's where all of that stuff started to happen. And the potential for the happy and joyous and more authentic future going forward and all of that kind of wank. That's how I'm casting it in my head right now. That's how that is.
But let's talk about the potential. So you, in your narrative brain...
In
I
this
don't know
simplified, too deified,
Yes.
entirely fictional narrative of my past life that is only loosely based on something that might be half remembered from my ADHD-raddled brain. Yes.
Exactly that. You reflected that. You felt that there was potential then.
Yes. It felt like a whole new chapter, there was the potential for all of these things that I've been trying for and failing would be replaced with things that were more accessible and acceptable, and I could be myself and still be loved, and I wouldn't need to try to be something I wasn't or contort myself to fit into a box that wasn't designed for me. If you wanted to be really heartless at this point, you could say that obviously hasn't happened since still don't have any friends. But that would be a little bit harsh on your part. So I'd prefer if you didn't. How dare you, in fact. It's just rude, really.
I wouldn't go there. I think... oh, God, I'm being such an asshole today. Sorry.
No, you're not. Go for it. I like it. This is challenging. This is interesting for me.
I think the concept of potential is really interesting. And perspective on potential. And I think we're kind of trained as people to get to a certain age and then be like, oh, well, that's it for me. And the age that we're trained to think that about ourselves is so young. And it's really scary that there's so many people that just buy into this. Like, oh, well, this is my lot in life. I'm not going to try.
Yeah, there are. And I think this is part of the heteronormative cishet societal structure that I was talking about earlier. Like, I'm from a small mining town in Yorkshire. Like, I grew up there in the 80s and 90s.
Did you have a shell suit?
I did. I had several.
What colours?
Mostly blues because I was a boy.
Ah, okay, great.
See how that works?
Okay.
So I grew up there, and for a long time, for like a few hundred years, the societal norm was you went to school, you met people at school who were your friends for the rest of your life. You probably met someone who was your girlfriend. You left school, you got a job, you got married, you squirted out some kids, you died. That was your life. That was it. And all of those things, apart from death, happen before you're 30 in that scenario. And I don't like to say this, and you'll see why when I get to the end of the sentence, but fuck. It's possible that I wouldn't be the wonderful shining person I am now if it weren't for Margaret Thatcher shutting down the mines and kind of ruining that self-perpetuating societal thing. Like suddenly everyone was like, ah, shit, what now? And part of that for me was getting the fuck out of there.
Wait, so hang on.
Because
What you're saying that you wouldn't have left if the mines hadn't been closed down?
I don't know. I can't say ifs don't work, but it's difficult to say. But there would have been more of a pressure to go and do that thing because that is the thing that people did. To be honest, like looking back now, I don't think I would have because I was itching to leave anyway because it wasn't a place for lovers of the cock, whether they be gay or queer. It was not a place for that kind of thing at all. It was a nasty little hole. But
Was or still is? Should we give a shout
I was
out?
going to say, things have changed now. I'm not there very often now. I only really go back for Christmas. I hope it's better, like, because, Jesus. But I think the whole of society's kind of shifted quite a bit in terms of being a lot more accepting back then. Like, I was 18 before Queer as Folk came out. Like, and up to that point, there were literally no positive gay role models at all. There was Julian Clary and Christopher Biggins, and that was it. I've forgotten where I was going with this. But yeah, my granddad was proud of the fact that he was 9 generations of miners. And he used to say, when I was 13, you finished school on Friday and you started down pit on Monday. And that's how it was. You went straight from one to the other, and that was just life. And people in those situations didn't question it because you weren't supposed to. And if you fit into that societal norm of, you know, this is what we do, you find a girl that you like, and then you put a couple of babies into her, there were plenty of people for whom that seemed like an acceptable life. And
Quick side note, do you have a problem with procreation? You keep talking about it as though it's this like really disgusting thing.
horrible
Okay.
thing.
All right,
I
well, as
don't-
long as we're clear on that.
Just the whole idea of like, it's like normal sex, but there's a chance you'll randomly generate a person. It's weird. I find it
2 or 3, like.
very, very strange. And just the whole idea of, I mean, the number of people who got pregnant from a one-night stand and then like stayed with that person and raised a child and had a family and shit like that. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. I don't know their name half the time, let alone moving in with them and marrying them. And
Yeah, but
shit.
I just want to state for the record that sometimes creating a human is a magical and beautiful thing. Not like for anyone that I know, but I've heard that it can be.
So you've heard from someone
Anyway.
from somewhere.
From TV. Anyway,
From
so
TV,
anyway.
all right.
And as we've discussed, TV only talks the truth. Now,
That's so true.
yeah, and I mean, this is the thing, right? So most of the norms in our society are built on the fact that people lived in a village and died at 35.
Not that they died at 35, just that their life
No,
was...
no, I'm going like all the way back, like, you know, living
okay,
in a
right.
cave and stuff, you know. And we still carry these things on. Like, we have all this evidence that marriage does not work for most people. And we're all still like, when are you getting married? What are you doing? We're like, when are you getting married? And it's like, what?
This is the essence of queerness, is seeing those things and going, that's not for me. I don't want to do that. Just because it's expected of me doesn't mean I have to do it. I don't owe the world a monogamous, miserable relationship.
But so hang on then. Are you saying that queer people can't be monogamous and miserable?
No, I'm saying queer people can. Of course, queer people can be monogamous if they choose to be. They could be miserable if they choose to be, or even if they don't choose to be. The point is that that is an example of one of the things that, as someone who does not subscribe to that particular notion of the societal norms, that's part of the thing that would bring them into the queer umbrella, is that they are not playing by the rules of society. If the rules for society as they stand for everyone don't fit for you, then you're already on the way to being queer. I think there's some intentionality and some like needing to choose to live outside of that in there as well. But yeah. And of course, queer people can be monogamous. There's absolutely nothing wrong. I like quite often when I fall in love with someone, and I have a lot of love to give, as we've covered. And sometimes when I have a big crush on someone, I don't want to think about sex with anyone else. And I just like the idea of being with them. And maybe we'll go on 4 or 5 dates, and I'll be like, oh, this is going quite nicely. And at the moment, I don't feel the need to be dating anyone else or having sex with anyone else or that kind of thing, because I'm very much into this person at the moment. And, you know, in a relationship, maybe that'll last a lifetime. Maybe it'll last a few years. Maybe it'll last 6 months. Who knows? And then maybe you'll, as part of a healthy relationship, you'd be able to discuss that. And if you need to open it up or change the parameters of your relationship, you could do so, as long as both people were still enjoying it and were consenting to all of the things. Then, yeah. Ethical sluttery. Such fun.
Right.
I feel I've just rambled a lot at you and just poured a lot of absolute rubbish into your ear holes. I'm terribly sorry.
So then, we were talking about potential.
Oh, yes. Like this podcast had such potential when we started.
Do you still feel that potential?
What, of finding my tribe and...
Yeah.
Yes. A bit. I feel like maybe London isn't the city for me because it is a harsh and cold and quite a lonely city. And it's famous for that. And here I am looking for friends. Because, you know, why not?
I mean, who doesn't love a challenge?
Exactly. If it were easy, it'd be boring. Oh, shit. That's probably something to talk about with my therapist at some point. But yeah, I'm not sure London is the city for me, especially nowadays with like the Tories and the way it's just been like everything interesting and fun and creative seems to be hammered out of it. And if it's not making money, then it doesn't count anymore. And if it's not a viable business choice, then no one's interested, which sucks. And that's not how you should run a country or a city. But here we are. So maybe it's time that I rediscovered my need to go and find this tribe, this family, this group, this gang somewhere that isn't London. Maybe, like you say, I need to learn when to leave the party. The problem here, of course, is that we can't A/B test reality, by which I mean I can't check to see which decision is the right one before I've made it. So if I do decide to leave and it turns out to be worse, I can't go, oh, wait, let's just have a backsies on that. Let's undo that and try again. There is no Control Z for reality, sadly.
Yeah, but then there's that really wanky phrase, isn't there? Like, if it's not happy, then it's not the end.
So, everything's okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, you did it. I bastardized it.
That's very not true, though. Like, does everyone die fulfilled and happy and content and with everything being perfect in their life? How many people die miserable and alone and wrong or damaged or upset or lonely?
Okay, like, I'm trying to give you some comfort here. Fine. But it's like, it's shit then. It's shit.
It's all shit, love. It's all the way down.
No, but like, you know, this fantasy that people have, like, oh, I'm going to move to this new job, I'm going to do this, and my life's going to be perfect thereafter. It's not.
No.
So you just have to accept that, and it is a risk, and it might not go right. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm getting so hard love on you here.
That's
just
okay,
fucking move.
I like it. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, if I'm not happy in my current situation, then I have two choices. I can either make my peace with that and stay in my current situation, or I can change something about my current situation and risk the new thing not being what I want it to be.
Yeah.
And that's a choice we all make all the time. And that's okay. You know.
You sound like such a fortune cookie today, I have to say.
Oh, do I? Okay. Well, I was about to actually go all fortune cookie then as well, but I'll not bother now. Fuck it.
No, go on. Come on. Maybe this will be a good end to the episode.
Oh, shit. Okay. I was going to say, and maybe the Georgian dragon not being around anymore is symbolic of how my time here is coming to an end. Maybe the family I looked for and the potential that I wanted to find, maybe I got everything out of it that I was supposed to. Maybe now is the time to move on and find something new and see where else I could fit in. Because I felt I fit in here for quite a while, and then things changed, as they always do. Everything changes. All is flux. For a while, it was fun and it was exciting and there was a lot of potential. And now maybe it's time to say that was wonderful and I have some happy memories and it's made me who I am today. And who I am today needs something new and a new chapter and a new dollop of potential and a new place where I can feel like I've come home and I've found what I was looking for. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just fuck it all up and end up living in my mum's spare room. Who knows?
Does she have central heating?
She does have central
Oh,
heating.
there's that. So then with that, what advice do you have for yourself at 27, 28 when you were going for the first time to George and Dragon?
Enjoy it. Just really kind of make a conscious decision to enjoy the place where you are. If walking into that place makes you feel comfortable and more at home, then embrace it and really enjoy it and try and get as much of it as you can. Get as much out of it as you can, because it won't be around forever. And hopefully there'll be some delicious memories in there, some delicious living and some beautiful memories to share afterwards. But there's no point half-arsing it. There's no point pretending to be something you're not, because you'll just be miserable. Was that fortune cookie enough for you?
Pretty much, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Do you have any memories of the George and Dragon or clubbing from your own queer scene that you want to share? Well, if you do, I want to hear from you. My plan is to create the biggest online record of people's memories and stories of queer clubbing, but I need your help. Go to lostspacespodcast.com and find the section Share a Lost Space to tell me all about what it is you got up to. You can also reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where my handle is Lost Spaces Pod. Find out more about Scott by listening to the Probably True podcast, available now wherever you stream podcasts, or follow them on Twitter, where the profile is Scott Flashheart, or on Instagram, where the profile name is Scott Loves Cake. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate if you subscribed, left a review on your podcast platform, or just told another human being who you think might be interested in giving it a little listen too. I am Kay Anderson, and you have been listening to Lost Spaces.